right? We used to fear the police. Now we fear anybody who sees us as subhuman or inhuman. Because if Trayvon Martin was standing his ground, which he was, it didn't matter that he stood his ground. And I think this is touching a lot of people as well, because the defense personally should be burning in hell right now. The way they've been talking about Trayvon, the glee in them yesterday, the glee in them, the knock-knock joke again, while your client already won when you should have just said, in my opinion, justice was served, and just go home and crawl under your rock and get your money, your blood money, right? And then George Zimmerman's brother today. We're watching this, and young people are watching what is being said about this child that is dead. And the reason right now that there are not rebellions happening is because our people, Black and Latino people, are resigned that this is what happens. We hope that we get justice, but we've gotten to the point where we don't expect it. We're in a state of shock. Like I told people, there should be a new category, post-traumatic verdict disorder, right? Every year our people have to go through a trial like this. And what about the people that never get a trial? What about the police officers that are never held accountable? This verdict came down the weekend, one of the best movies probably ever, Fruitvale, about the murder of Oscar Grant. How prophetic is that? And immediately, as we're awaiting the verdict, it's what are Black people going to do? You're lucky Black people ain't rioting and rebelling in these streets right now. America should be real grateful right now. Historically, most riots have been perpetrated against Black people by white mobs in this country. So this idea, too, that we are mad at every white person in America and what is being said is insanity. Because we know that George Zimmerman was Hispanic, but he was working on behalf of white supremacy. Just like President Obama is working on behalf of white supremacy and patriarchy right now, right? Just like there are white people like David Gilbert and Laura Whitehorn, people who've given up their lives for Black bodies. We have to contend with the President Obama who put out a statement today about recognizing the law. You're droning people, deporting people. You don't free political prisoners. You want to talk about us respecting the law. You respect the law. You want to talk about humanity? Talk about that human rights. And we as people of color have to say what it is, and it's not popular. And we don't want anything happening to people. But Trayvon was watching an all-star game, his team, thinking he was going to go home. And a piece of concrete now is a deadly weapon if you're a Black person walking it. It's just like the Black Code era. You can't walk across the street. You can't do this. This is exactly where we're at right now. Except vigilantes now have guns. It's a tough time for those of us who fight for justice, because the victories are very far and few between. And right now we're stuck in a pattern. It's exactly why President Obama, they needed him, to keep the empire running as it's actually crumbling. You know? So for the young people and the men of color like my husband, the sun could be up or down at this point. We don't know if you're coming home anymore. The women in your lives don't know it. The children don't know. So I don't know what the plan So did I expect a guilty verdict? No, but I'm mad, right? Jay Cortez, a great poet that we lost recently, said, if we don't fight, if we don't resist, if we don't organize and unify and get the power to control our own lives, then we will wear the exaggerated look of captivity, the stylized look of submission, the bizarre look of suicide, the dehumanized look of fear, and the decomposed look of repression forever and ever, and there it is. So, as we move forward, especially for all young people in high school and college, most of us who are in college being burdened by other unnecessary things than fighting for social justice, the incredible thing about being and in the midst of education is the process to always learn, to always grow, to always move. A lot of people were saying today on Facebook, oh, now people are mad. You know what? Everybody comes to movement in their own path, their own time. If this is your first time here, welcome to the revolution. If it's your second time here, thank you for coming back. If it's your 55 time here, thank you for being consistent. And if you're here until you take your last dying breath, you've at least struck a blow against this wicked system. This system that sees every man of color. And lastly, as we think and we make connections, think about the undocumented men right now being killed on the border. And this immigration militarization bill coming, right? So if there can be a George Zimmerman against a Trayvon Martin, a vigilante, there's going to be vigilantes on the border killing undocumented people. And pretty soon they won't have to worry. They're going to be able to say on Facebook what they did the night before and get away with it. This is exactly what this verdict is shown, But as Frederick Douglass said, if there's no struggle, there's no progress. We got to move. It's ugly right now. We're feeling the pain. Many of us are scared. Some of us feel guilty. We don't need that. We need people that feel it in their heart, have the capacity to organize, and have the capacity to stay in this long-term movement. Activism is not a trend. It's not something you wear. It's not a button. It's exactly how you live. When you live activism, this is what gets us through these moments. Peace, everybody.